There are over 1.6 million officially registered internally displaced people in Ukraine, and many more who aren't registered. But according to a new publication by the Atlantic Council and the United States Institute of Peace, the people who moved from Donbas to the rest of the country hold the key to peace, integration, and building bridges in Ukraine. The Atlantic Council, Geisha Gonzalez, join us live. Welcome for being out that late now, just coming from the US. My general thing, you know, there are less. It looks like we're following the war, we're following the issues with the security, but there is somehow a bit less attention to the internally displaced at this stage. It kind of considered the issue is solved. Can you put into context, you know, the figure? You know, the most of the people from Ukraine, they stayed here. And as well, you know, why you see that as a crucial thing.
Wonderful. Well, I mean, it is 1.6 million internally displaced persons in Ukraine. That is 9th in the world. And of course, there has not been enough international attention to this issue, despite the large figure. That is, that includes 230,000 children as well.
We do, by the way, have this figure just to say that half of the people is really stayed close to the unoccupied parts of Donetsk and Luhansk. So the half of them are pensioners. We understand that some of the pensioners actually stayed in the controlled areas, but they need to register the pension. Still, there is a huge number. There are a lot of children and even disabled.
Clearly, some of the most vulnerable people are among these figures. The Atlantic Council does strive to make sure that we're putting a spotlight in the most pressing issues facing Ukraine, and this is one of them. And that's why this report came about. The United States, we were able to launch it on Capitol Hill with Congresswoman Marcy Kaptur, who really highlighted this issue. Ambassador Kurt Volker actually quoted our report weeks after, talking about the importance of IDPs and how we should be paying attention to this issue. And on Tuesday, we will be hosting an event with the Ukraine Crisis Media Center, where we're bringing Ambassador Yovanovitch on this.
And in particular, why usually when we speak about internally displaced and the issue the Hromadske as well, these are the issues about how the communities, how they are living in the new places, to what extent they are integrated. I think it's important to explain to the international audience that, you know, there is no any different ethnicity. There is no any different, I mean, it's a different in Crimea, we have Crimean Tatars, but overall, especially we're speaking about the people from Donbas, I mean, they are the Ukrainian, they have the same religion, there is very little, you know, usually, so it should be very easy for them to, you know, move at some point. But the unexpected finding was that they could be the key for the peace.
Yeah.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, of course. They can be a key to sustaining peace because they are the bridge builders. They build bridges between the East and the West. They contribute to our communities. They contribute to local economies. There are several examples on at the report that will highlight this. But they are faced with many blockades when they are trying to be integrated in the communities. In 2016, the socials payments were suspended. In 2016, later that year, they were not allowed to vote in local elections without losing their IDP status, which would prevent them from getting benefits. And these are things that the Ukrainian government really needs to work on, because they're Ukrainians first and foremost.
So probably the most important part of the report is really their recommendations for the decision makers, of course here in Ukraine and in the US and international community. Can you really point out what at this stage is important to be done?
Yeah, I think the first and foremost, empowering the Ministry of IDPs, giving them the power to actually enforce their mandate is key. And then, you know, restoring the payments that they had in 2016, making sure that they're able to vote in the local elections and make it easier for them to integrate themselves into the local community.
In generally, how does the report assess the way to what extent the Ukrainian government is tackling the issue? It's not that satisfactory.
It's not satisfactory. There's definitely a lot of work to be done, and that is why we wrote the report, because we need to highlight this issue, make sure that it's elevated internationally, and really push the Ukrainian government towards the right direction on this issue.
So what would be also the recommendation for the counterparts? What would be how it would be the way to, enforce better policies?
I think for the United States, the key is going to be to tie this to our commitment to Ukrainian reforms. I know that the Atlantic Council, the Eurasia Center, at the heart of our Ukraine in Europe initiative is tracking reforms and making sure that Ukraine remains in the path towards reforms. So tying that with Ukrainian reforms, security, and the prosperity going forward.
As I probably really add on that, because we're following closely the talks, the Ukraine-US relations, and mainly the issues which are raised is about the security, is about the providing lethal weapon, and it's definitely about the reforms, the justice reforms and the others. So that's interesting, really, that the issues of internally displaced is raised. And maybe what else, for instance, so you suggest that the people in the Capitol Hill should, mention all these issues while meeting the Ukrainian leaders?
No, absolutely. I think this needs to be brought in the same table when we're talking about security, when we're talking about reforms, when we're talking about the future of Ukraine. We should also be talking about the IDPs.
And what can the international community do? As we also mentioned, there is this figure which remained, it wasn't surprised, it's just a 10% of kind of the financial support of 240 million of US dollars, which kind of needed, were provided. So what are else your suggestions to, besides maybe the money, but probably funds as well, so critical?
I mean, yeah, no, the money would be helpful. But I think the most important thing that we can do, especially, the Atlantic Council and our role in this entire issue, is to just make sure that we continue to highlight the issue and press the importance of solving this issue.
So overall, how you find the this humanitarian, looking at the work of what you are doing and solving the conflicts globally, sometimes we focus on the security. The fact that you've done that, it's already highlight the fact that you cares about the humanitarian issues. But how can you connect as well and say how critical the solution of the humanitarian issues are important for the security? As there would be people say first there is a security, first let's solve let's finish the war, and then we'll deal with the people.
It's not as linear as many people would like to think. I think it all comes together. Yes, security is a very important thing, but part of being secure means making sure that you allow all the opportunities to all of your people, and the IDPs are Ukrainians, so they should be integrated as such.